Hello, good evening, and welcome to Bookmakers TV. This is the Premier League preview show. I'm Gav from the LFC Day Trippers. That is Joe Wayman, the Leeds fan, and that is Jamie Brown, the Spurs fan. We were all on here last week. We told Jamie Spurs were going to win against Forest. He didn't believe us. He has apologised just before the show, so that's okay. We've got beyond that, and now we're going to chat about the Premier League. But I'm going to start off talking a bit of Spurs and Forest from last week, and then we're going to get into predominantly the bottom six, because as much as the top four is kind of fluctuating and there's games in hand and different things, it's starting to level out in that bottom six with regards to games played, points, and some of the games this weekend. When I looked at the fixtures, I just thought we have to go and have a look at this bottom six. But Jamie, I'm going to start with you. You weren't confident going into that game against Forest last week. You've just said before we come on that goal Forest scored was the fourth league goal they've scored away from home all season. We were saying to you about, me and Joe felt it was a game where Harry Kane would just pick Forest apart, get into spaces and hurt them. But just quickly on Spurs, does that give you a bit more confidence? And what you're seeing from Forest, does that, they're going to need some hell of a home run to get out of this?
So firstly on Spurs, I think we know with Nottingham Forest, their away form has been so poor this season. They have the worst away record in the league, as you mentioned. That's just the fourth time they've scored away from home all season. So a team that I think we should have been beating. Obviously, I kind of did predict that we weren't going to win that game, but that was simply because I just felt as though Antonio Conte's time had kind of come to an end, and the Spurs players weren't really kind of getting up for him. We saw a real lacklustre performance against AC Milan. It was a really difficult week, of course, going out in the FA Cup as well, losing to Wolves. So, yeah, that's kind of why I expected us to maybe drop points there. But look, it was always going to, should have been a really easy game for us. It was, almost the perfect game to, after a very difficult week, you want an easy game, and that was it. So, look, we've got a lot more to prove. We go away to Southampton on the weekend. Now, they've got the worst home record in the league, so, we've got some nice fixtures coming our way, which I think is definitely going to be a bit of a plus. But, yeah, I don't think it gives me a huge amount of confidence going into the weekend or going into the rest of the season. I still need to see plenty more from Conte and this team, that they are back on the right track, because the one thing that Spurs are consistent at is being inconsistent. So I just need to kind of see Spurs produce go on a bit of run of form, and I think the weekend's going to be a nice little test as to where we're at. In regards to Nottingham Forest, we know that obviously their home form has been really good this season. I think going away to the City ground is going to be a very tricky place still to go. They've picked up lots of points there. They've beaten some big teams, they've held some big teams, and got some results there. So I think they're very much reliant on their home form, and obviously got a big test on Friday evening against Newcastle. It'll be interesting to see kind of under the lights, the City ground, how that impacts them. So yeah, I don't think they'll be hugely worried about their away form, because I think they know at home that's where they're going to try and get all their points. So yeah, obviously away form taken into account, I think it's not been the best for Nottingham Forest, because they do have the worst in the league.
Yeah. Joe, we were speaking last week about the bottom half of the table, the bottom six or whatever it might be, and as it's gone now, and you look at the table, it changes and it doesn't. Like, the same names are down there, but just the predicament they're in is slightly different. You look right up to 12th in Palace. They're 5 points off the bottom.
Yes,
right? And you look at Forest, all right, they lose the team, but we were nearly discounting Forest last week. They didn't get much of a mention last week because you were on 26 points. You were looking at teams down there on 21, 22, and you were saying, it's a decent little gap they have with the home form they have. But Palace go away to Arsenal, I think, this weekend, and you're looking at Arsenal winning that game. Like, Arsenal are so close now, I think, to just doing this, to be honest. But you look at Everton; they've played a game more than everyone bar Southampton. Everton are 3 points off the bottom. But the outlooks is so much different now, because Everton feel like they're buzzing a bit, just going by their fan base on social. Leeds get beaten by Chelsea, and I know you were disappointed. Bournemouth get that win against Liverpool. Liverpool were so poor, but Bournemouth got exactly what they deserved because they worked so hard. And West Ham are still there. Leicester are falling like a stone. Is it better for the likes of Leeds that there's literally 7 teams in this?
Yeah, it's huge. I was talking about it on my channel earlier, and I mentioned about Palace, and someone said, "Oh no, they're not in trouble." I said, "Listen, if we if we beat Wolves at the weekend and they lose, we're a point behind them, and they're in 12th, and we're in 19th.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's a 7-point jump then to Villa in 11.
Yeah,
So this is a mini league of eight teams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost like you could argue like you'd want a league like this every year. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many teams vying for the top four. There's, maybe at the top you've got Arsenal and City, and then you've got so many teams vying for the other European sports. And then, like, at the bottom, like you say, from 20th all the way up to 12th, there's no, like, at this stage, nearly every season, you're looking at least 2 teams being done. Yeah. And then the third team, it's normally between about 4 teams.
4 or 5 teams, yeah.
Yeah. Now you're talking the whole lot. Like, literally, that bottom 3 is currently sat there, Bournemouth, Leeds and Southampton. Could be the 3 that won't even go down. Do you know what I mean? That's how wild it is. So, this weekend's huge as well, especially before the international break. I think if you're down there and you get a positive result, you've then got like 10 days, whatever it is, of decent atmosphere within the camp, getting ready for your return. Whereas if you lose, it's like, oh God. Like, we got a point against Brighton, which in isolation is a great point, but we ended up moving down the table because everyone else gets results. But that's why I've tried to say to people is like, try not to focus on the league positions at the minute because it is so tight. Like, one win, if you've got 2 wins on the bounce, let's say, for example, which is hard to come by, that's why you're down there. But you then start to go, oh, we might be all right. Do you know what I mean? Because it's that tight.
It's like, when I look at it, like Southampton on 22, Leeds on 23, Bournemouth on 24, or West Ham 24, Leicester 24, Everton 25. Now, Leicester, West Ham, Bournemouth, Leeds have all played a game less than Everton. You have Nottingham Forest on 26, Wolves 27, Palace 27, and Alison Adams in the chat there, Leeds fan, I think, says never saw a league as tight as this, and she's just echoing really what you've said, because you're right. With 11 games to go, you usually have someone sitting on about 20 points, and you're going, they're gone. You might have someone in 19th on 21, 22 points. You're going, they're gone as well. The years gone by where you'd have a Watford or whoever it might be that's just being so poor, and they're nearly mismanaged to the point where you go, they're just not getting out of this. Like, I think Watford have had about 18 managers in about 9 years. They're just crazy. But you talk about positive results, and this is why when I looked at these fixtures this weekend, you're spot on what you're saying, because a positive result here, right, not only gives you, like, say Leeds, let's take Leeds for example. Leeds go and beat Wolves. They probably jump above Wolves, okay? So, they jump above Wolves. They go from 23 to 26 points. They probably have a game in hand on 1 or 2 around them. But not only that, then Wolves won't do it. But then do the likes of Leicester, do West Ham panic and say, we're getting rid of our manager? Because this is always the time now with 10 to go where, they start just getting rid of managers. Bring someone in. We need something for the last 10 games, Allardyce, or I'm not saying Allardyce in particular, but that sort of plan. And that's why when I looked at this weekend, I thought to myself, not only results wise, but the reaction of the teams that don't come out this weekend will be very interesting. I don't think Leeds will do anything. Obviously, they have a new manager. No. Southampton, I think they've given that guy the job at the end of the season. But there's so much going on there that just one negative result and something else around you, and all sorts could go on here in this international break. It really, really could. Jamie, we start on Friday night, and you've touched on Forest and Newcastle, but a huge game for both. It's one to pick out for the weekend because Forest are down there. Newcastle have these games in hand. They've kind of fell off a cliff a little bit, but they got back with it. I think they got a win in the last league game, controversially against Wolves. But it just kicks off a big weekend, doesn't it? Because both ends of the table, but as I said, the reaction from other teams around you is going to be, I think you'll see 1, if not 2 managers go in the next 10 days.
Yeah, I said with Nottingham Forest, I think their home form is going to be something that will try and keep them up, and this is what they've got to capitalise on. And as I said, a game under the lights at the City ground, obviously with the atmosphere really going for it. This is where they're going to have to pick up their points. I said they've been really poor away from home, so they're going to have to be strong here. So this is going to be another game where they're going to be looking to target to get points. Yes, obviously it's against a strong Newcastle team. But as I said, I think at the moment they seem to be going head-to-head with most teams at home. So, they need to come and get a positive result here. I think for Newcastle as well, obviously, just a huge game for them. I think they are in a good position still. Obviously, form has been a bit hit and miss since the World Cup. A team that kind of struggled for goals a little bit. And yeah, I think this is a game they need to go and win as well, to go and put pressure on the likes of Spurs and obviously Liverpool as well in that top four. But they're in a good position at the moment. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting game. Obviously, so much riding on it for both teams. But for me, I think it's a really, really important game for Forest because, as I said, it's all about kind of capitalising on these home matches because they just cannot rely on such poor away form. So yeah, big game for Nottingham Forest this.
Quick predictions on it. I'm going to go Forest. I think Newcastle beat them. I think Newcastle, they were in a poor run of form, but I was listening to one of the shows we done on Air Channel Monday night, I think it was, and one of the lads, Dicko, on Air Channel was talking about Forest and different things, and Newcastle in particular. It was a race for top four, and he was saying that great run in the League Cup, but it seemed to hamper the league for him. And as soon as they kind of got that League Cup out of the system, they've gone and won a game. Controversially, I know, with the Nick Pope stuff and whatever else. But Newcastle I think Newcastle will go back to the way they were before this League Cup run, where really solid at the back. They had the best defensive record in the league up until about 6 weeks ago. They're starting to get players up front that are starting to play. You know, Isaac is starting to come back into a little bit of form. I think they'll beat Forest, and I think this might be where Forest really start to worry. I think they've been okay this season because other teams around them and below them have been really, really poor. But these teams will start picking up points, and this is maybe where Forest start to hit a panic button. I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. Joe?
Oh, God, it's huge. I'm really worried about Forest's home form. You said quick. 1-0 Newcastle, hopefully.
Okay.
I don't know. It's so tight, bro. It could draw. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're not doing this out of football predictions. You're doing this out of who you need to lose, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Jamie?
I'm going to go for a draw here. I think Forest will get something from it. I said just a game that's under the lights at City Ground. I think they can come and get something. Obviously, a game that's on TV as well. I think this could be a really entertaining game of football. I know Nottingham Forest, they're conceding a lot of shots at home as well. That's something that I kind of picked up on. So yeah, I think this is going to be a game where there will be lots of goals. I know Newcastle had been struggling for them, but yeah, I can certainly see a few goals here, and I actually think Nottingham Forest will hold Newcastle here.
Okay. Emma Kavanagh says scientists have said by the year 2030, 1 in 3 adults will have managed to Watford. And we laugh, but you never know. Joe, let's talk Leeds. They go away to Wolves at the weekend. Wolves are a bit strange. They don't seem to score an awful lot of goals. They seem to have some lovely footballers in their side. Lopetegui they've definitely improved under him.
Oh yeah.
He's probably still trying to find his feet a little bit. I'm probably just trying to find that formula that gets them more goals. But it has to. It feels like a massive game, Joe, because the 6-pointer thing will get thrown around. But when you're down there with them, they get a win against you, and they're looking at Leeds, who are second from bottom at the moment, going, we've pulled away from them, because they're looking at is who's in 17th and how far can we get away from 17th. So how big a game is it at the weekend for Leeds?
It's massive, mate. It's massive because, we come back after the international break and we play Arsenal, so can sort of write that one off. So we need a win, just more so for the confidence going into the international break as well, mate. 10 days, whatever it is, 2 weeks. And look, Javi Gracia's come in, and in the league, we've got 4 points from 3 games. Lost away at Chelsea, drew against Brighton, which is no mean feat. They're a very good side. Beat Southampton at home. He got a lot of stick for his tactics against Brighton, but he set us up not to lose, and we didn't lose. And maybe he will have a bit more of a front foot approach against Wolves. I'm not too sure with it being away from home. I know some fans are not really enjoying the style of play, but for me, it's all about getting points. And if we, like I said, winning this game's huge because it means we're then, point behind Wolves. It's mad, but it's going to be tough. You are right. Since Lopetegui's come in, they've put some results together. Tyler Adams, unfortunately, is out as well. He's picked up a knock, and he's out of international break as well, so it might be serious. So we'll have to see how McKennie and Rocker get on in the middle of the park. But Rodrigo and Sinistera came back against Brighton, came on the pitch for a little bit. Getting Rodrigo back's huge. Hopefully he starts at the weekend. And yeah, the game's massive, mate, because we just need to start putting wins together. We need to start getting points, man. And Wolves is definitely one when you think about the fixtures we've got left to say, right, we need to go win this one. We need to go win this one because come back from the international break, you play Arsenal, you lose that. You've then got Forest and Palace. And it's like we need to have some sort of confidence going into them games, you know?
Yeah. It's I think it's a really interesting game. I think I think Wolves are a very hard team to approach. You know, like if I thought Wolves are just brilliant going forward, but they're terrible at the back, you say to yourself, right, let's just be tight against these and we can pick them off. But they're not brilliant going forward. They have some players where you think they'd be really good going forward, but they just can't seem to put it together. And I think when I watch Wolves, I think if you go at them, they're at the most dangerous. I think they're a counter-attacking side, even though they've players in them. They feel like a counter-attacking side, even though you have players like Joe Matinho, you've got Ruben Neves, you've all these players that are lovely footballers that you would think they'd go into a side and they'd love to play in sides where they control the ball and they control the match and they'll pick pockets and they'll do whatever. And they just seem a weird team to go up against. I think Leeds' way home on the weekend is to probably sit tight and let them have it, even though that feels like that's the Wolves' strength, but it's not. If you get me, it's just not. So I think it's a massive game. I actually think it'll be a draw at the weekend. I think either team, and I think both teams will take a draw. I think they don't lose ground on each other, and they're probably looking around and going, no, is anyone going to win at the weekend? Is Southampton going to beat Spurs? Is Everton going to go and win at Chelsea? There's just loads going on there. Bournemouth are away at Villa. I think a draw from both of them is probably a decent result. Yeah. Joe, I have to get a prediction of you.
2-1 Leeds. 2-1. Bamford and Rodrigo.
I've won all. Jamie, go on, give us a prediction.
Yeah, I just in terms of how I think the game's going to play out. I look at Leeds and they've got the worst. We've got the third worst away form in the league this season. It's not been great. It's just one win from 13 matches away from home. They've lost 9 of those games as well. So yeah, on the road, Leeds have obviously not had much fortune this season. Wolves, the side have won 3 of their last 4 at home as well, so they come into this one with a bit of good form at Molineux. I know very well how good they can be at Molineux. Obviously beat Spurs, I think 2 weeks ago, 1-0 win. So I'm really sorry, Joe.
It's all right.
I think this is going to be a really tight game, and I genuinely do think it could go either way, this one. I think as well, we know with Wolves, lowest goal scorers in the league. I think anything can happen, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Wolves. So I'm very sorry to all the Leeds fans watching.
Danny, the Leeds fans, is 2-1 Leeds. Bamford and Rocket. Joe will take that all day. Emma Kavanagh was saying earlier Shelby can't play, so that's good for Forest at the weekend. Is that down to suspension or injury or what? Because I thought he signed on a permanent deal from Newcastle. But I could be wrong. But let's move on to the next team who are down there, and it's Southampton. They play Spurs, don't they, at the weekend? And Southampton, for me, are a team that I think they're the worst team in the league. I genuinely do. I think they're the worst team in the league. But they seem to pop up then and do something where they just keep themselves in it. They win away at Chelsea. They get a point at Old Trafford, and you're kind of going, nobody's seen them getting 4 points out of those 2 away games. So they just keep hanging in there. And I don't think they've the worst squad in the league. I just think the way this season has gone, I think they're a bit all over the place. They're definitely the team for me that still haven't found what they are this season. You know, they were, what was the guy that was in charge of them? He was mad.
Nathan Jones.
Yeah,
Nathan
absolutely. Jones. Great value, by the way, but mental. And it just seemed like he came in and just threw everything up in the air and it hasn't landed yet. And that's where I think Southampton are. But they play Spurs. Spurs could go out and tonk this. Like if Son, Kane, if they're all playing and they're all on form, they could batter them. I think they battered them a couple of seasons ago, maybe in last season. They battered Southampton at St Mary's. But Jamie, going into this one, you weren't confident at home to Forest last weekend. Is there confidence in you for this one? Because I think this is a much harder game than last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously looked at the Nottingham Forest one, and as I said, I just felt as though it kind of finished. I was obviously very pleasantly surprised that we did end up winning 3-1, and that was a great result. Again, I think, I mentioned earlier, I think Southampton, they come into this with the worst home form in the league. So, again, another nice fixture. And you're right, if our players do turn up, I think we can certainly go and steamroll this one. But at the moment, I think Ruben Selles has made a good start to life at Southampton. Obviously, they did suffer that defeat to Brentford last night, and that kind of ended a good little run for them. But, we'd seen them beat the likes of Chelsea. I think they've beaten Leicester as well. They got the draw away at Manchester United as well. So they have been a bit of a tricky team to beat. But I think if you look at Brentford winning 2-0 at St Mary's last night, I think Spurs should have more than enough to go and do the same. And I do think Spurs will just about come out on top here. But as I said, it's going to be tricky to know kind of what you're going to get. That's the thing. It's so difficult to know what you're going to get with Spurs at the moment. I am slightly confident just because Southampton have been so poor at St Mary's. So yeah, I do think Spurs come out on top here.
Give us a score.
I'm going to go for another 3-1 victory for Spurs.
Nice. I knew you were going to say 3-1. Joe, you want Southampton bashed at the weekend, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're the team below you. And if all you want is teams around you, like they all can't lose, I don't think, at the weekend, Joe. Maybe they can. I'm not too sure.
Maybe.
But you don't know what you're going to get with Southampton. You just don't. And that's part of their issue. They don't know what they're going to get either. But Spurs should have enough here, shouldn't they?
More than enough, mate. I'm expecting a couple more Harry Kane goals, mate. And I'm going to say 3-0 Spurs. Come on, the Spurs.
I feel bad now. I predicted a lose to me.
Oh, mate, don't worry about it.
But look, I think, we've spoken there about a draw at Old Trafford and a win away at Stamford Bridge and stuff. But then they go and they lose that one against Brentford. And now with those 3 games, as Southampton players, fans, wherever, you'd be targeting that Brentford one going, let's get 3 there. And they just don't.
They lost to us as well. Like, they beat Chelsea 1-0 and then we played them and beat them 1-0, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just seems like they take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, and eventually it's going to catch up with them because they've only about 12 games left, and I don't think they'll have enough there. But speaking of Chelsea, they host Everton. Everton got that win last weekend, 1-0, wasn't it? They won the win over Brentford, and were good value for it by all accounts. They're kind of, I'm watching their social media this week, and they're a bit buoyant as to, it's a good win and they've picked up some points. And I think the fact that they're out of the bottom 3, and teams around them that had games in hand are losing, like Southampton last night. But Joe, going to Chelsea, this is a must win for Chelsea because they're in serious danger of not making top 4. Yeah. And for the money they've spent, the players they brought in, they need top 4 badly, Joe.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, 100%. I think Graham Potter needs it as well. I think they will have too much for Everton. Everton away from home, a bit like Forest in a sense, are just not at the races. I think, like say, if either of them 2 teams are to stay up, their home form counts. Look, Chelsea beat us 1-0. I thought we should have got something from the game, but have gone 3 unbeaten now since then. So maybe they have started to turn a corner. To be honest, like I'm from a fantasy football perspective as well. I'm considering Havertz. I've got Chilwell in there as well because he looks like he's coming to the races in the last few. So I do expect Chelsea to win this game, mate. And I don't know if they'll get top 4 come the end of the season.
They're 11 points off Spurs with a game in hand.
Yeah, I think it's too far. But I do think they'll have too much for Everton. They might have to settle for that Conference League one, man, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they go out and win the Champions League. That's what I'm thinking. Right?
I'm genuinely thinking Chelsea are feeling like this could be one of those seasons where we're not getting top 4. We've brought a load of players in. We're 11 points off Spurs. We have a game in hand to get them to 8. But then you expect Newcastle to pick up points in those games in hand to possibly go level or ahead of Spurs maybe. Liverpool, although they lose at Bournemouth, they're in decent enough form in the league. The one at Bournemouth was just one. Well, when I say one of those days, it's kind of happened a few times this season. And it's shown Liverpool's kind of inconsistency, but I don't think there's enough inconsistency in the likes of Spurs, Newcastle and Liverpool to allow Chelsea to come in and take them over. I just don't. Liverpool go away to Chelsea after the international break. They play away to City, home to Arsenal, away to Chelsea, I think is the order they're in. I might have that slightly wrong, but I just don't. I think Chelsea actually might be looking at it saying to themselves, let's just go and try win the Champions League. I don't know what way the financial backing works, that if they're not in the Champions League, what happens there, but it can't help. I'm getting vibes of Everton going to City off this one, where Everton go in and go really tight and play 5 at the back, play 4, play 1 up front, and try their best to come out of this. You have Chelsea down for a win. I think Everton get a point here. I think Everton get a 1-1 draw. I think that win against Brentford was huge because they feared it massively. I know that they feared that Brentford game massively, and to get that win was big. And going there, Chelsea, I think Chelsea a bit eye off the ball in the league. That's me. That's my personal thinking. And I think Everton might come out of here with a point at least. But it could be way wrong. They could get bashed.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go 1-1 draw. Jamie, Chelsea.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to go pretty big here, and I'll say that Everton will stay up this season. I'm in terms of the result, I actually think Chelsea will win here. I think this will end up being a 2-0 win. But looking at Everton's form since Sean Dyche has come in, they've been fantastic actually, and it's really surprising to see how well they've done. They've got the 6th best record in the league since Sean Dyche took over. That was on the weekend. I think that might slightly change now with Brentford and Brighton both winning. But look, it just shows that he's come in, he's doing the job that everyone kind of was expecting him to do. He's been grinding out results, and I think that's why Everton will be safe. They moved at just the right time. You spoke at the start of the show about all these teams maybe wanting to change managers because they want to just stay in the division. Everton, in fairness to them, they acted decisively and they got in the man who is very good at keeping teams up, and I think they will reap the rewards from that, and I think they'll be safe. However, on the weekend, I think they face a Chelsea team who are starting to click. I think a lot of what's been kind of thrown at Chelsea recently has been pretty harsh. Graham Potter was not given a lot of time at all. It really had not been there in the job a long time. Then, of course, you factor in how many new players he was having to make gel as well. Injuries as well had really hit them as well. So I think a lot of kind of what had gone at Chelsea had been very harsh in terms of the criticism thrown their way. It's starting to click now. I don't think it's going to be quite enough to really push and get into the Champions League or the top 4, but I can see them certainly starting to push now for a European spot, and I think it will continue on the weekend with a 2-0 win.
Yeah, look, when you look at Everton, and I think we might have been touched on this last week with regards to the fixtures that they have. They go away to Chelsea, home to Spurs, away to United, home to Fulham, away to Palace, home to Newcastle, away to Leicester, away to Brighton, home to Man City, away to Wolves, who could still be in trouble, and home to Bournemouth. Like, they've some massive games in there for different reasons, massive clubs that are playing, that are chasing things, but then teams in there that, look at it, Palace chasing something, Newcastle, Leicester, Brighton, City, Wolves. There's not a game in there where they're walking away going into where going, there's not really much on this. You could argue maybe Fulham, that could drop into that no man's land of, say, 8th to 12th, but every game for Everton is just massive. You know what I mean? And I think, yes, they've been okay at home. If you look at their form since Dyche came in, I think they beat Arsenal in his first game.
Yes,
1-0. They beat Arsenal. They lose to Liverpool. They beat Leeds. They lose at home to Villa. They lose away to Arsenal. They draw with Forest, and then they beat Brentford. So their home form is not too bad. It's their away form that's killing them. And I think if they were to get a point this weekend, not only is it a big point away at Chelsea, but it gives them something to hold on to away from home. I think they're struggling away from home. I think they have a draw. You both have Chelsea to win. There's just something in me here that feels that Chelsea might just look at this Champions League and go, we're all in on this. We can get through the season and finish 8th, 9th, and who cares? Because they have that kind of who cares attitude anyway, with regards to the way they're putting this squad together. So I think it's a chance. I think it's a chance for Everton at the weekend. Last game to look at, Villa, Bournemouth. And, Bournemouth have that win against Liverpool last weekend. It was massive for them when you look at the table and where they are. And You know, they go away to a Villa side who are definitely in that no man's land. They're on 35 points. They're not going to push top four. I don't think they're going to push even the Conference League place. They're not going to get dragged into a relegation battle. But Bournemouth moved up to 18th with that win. Again, they're only 3 points off Palace now in 12th, like we spoke about earlier. Joe, another hard game to call because I don't know what Villa side turn up.
Yeah.
Villa for me turn up some weeks and go, they look great. You know, and then other weeks you go, that's just a manager that's still in the early days. So it's a bit hit and miss with Villa. But do you hold any hope Villa will do a job here on the weekend? And
I think they will, mate. I think Ollie Watkins has hit some decent form over the past few weeks. I do like some of the Bournemouth players. You know, I like Solanke, I like Philip Billing, but I think maybe away from home, I think Villa Park, they'll hopefully win this one. And like I say, you know, all on Ollie Watkins continuing his decent form, and listen. They've done well, haven't they? They've changed their manager, and Emery's got them way out of it now. Do you know what I mean? And I think they'll have too much for Bournemouth. I'm hopeful anyway. I'm still reeling at the fact that your team beat someone 7-0 and then went and lost to them. Like, I was fuming. With you.
Listen, I've no problem you fuming with me because the game against Bournemouth, to touch on it, Liverpool were really good first 20. You know, kept the ball, moved it fairly fast. The moving of the ball fast fell away so badly in the game. You know, it was a lovely pitch to play on. It was wet. It was, you know, slick. Go and play football. And Liverpool, not that they fell into a trap. I said this on our show on Sunday night. The encouragement Bournemouth were looking for was that they were able to pick a pass out of defence to get their wide men on the ball. And Liverpool of old wouldn't let you do that. Liverpool of old would have been on top of you, and you'd have been playing a percentage pass to try do something up front, and Liverpool would have gobbled you up and came straight back at you again. But they weren't. They were getting down the sides of Liverpool, and they were hurting them. And Liverpool have some good chances. They miss a penalty. For me, 3 or 4 really good chances. It didn't fall for Liverpool, but that's no excuse, because to be honest with you, if Liverpool have done their job, I think, more off the ball, they would have actually ended up getting more. They would have got more out of the game on the ball if they'd have done more off the ball, if you get me, because Bournemouth probably would have fell deeper and deeper and deeper, and Liverpool would have found something. But the way the game was going, Bournemouth weren't dropping overly deep and were still encouraged by what was going the other way, and Liverpool weren't doing their job. And you play that game another 5 times, Liverpool probably win it 5 times. But in fairness, I walked away from it fuming at Liverpool, but I kind of said to myself, Bournemouth worked hard, seen where they were going to get their encouragement, and kept doing it. And we're allowed to do it. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from with fuming. Don't worry, I was fuming as well. But for me, it's the away game against the home game for me with Bournemouth. That's the thing. You know, everyone's looking at their home games now. And I know that's an easy thing to say. Everyone does look at their home games. But I see Villa doing enough at the weekend. 2-0 Villa for me. Jamie?
Yeah, I think this will be a routine Villa win here. I think, as we keep mentioning, you know, Bournemouth very, very poor away from home. They've lost 9 times this season. So, you know, away record is been shocking. Ollie Watkins, I think, as Joe mentioned, he's been really, really good recently. I think he's got 6 in his last 7 in the league. So, a guy who's kind of on fire at the moment. Maybe he can count himself a bit unlucky in terms of on missing out on the England squad. I mean, maybe there are players in that squad more deserving, but look, his form's been really, really impressive. Obviously, ever since Danny Ings left, he's kind of really flourished, and I think that this will be a game where Aston Villa come out on top. I've been impressed on occasions by Unai Emery and Aston Villa, and they've got some big results. Obviously, it has been somewhat inconsistent, but I think when they play Bournemouth at home, I think it should be a comfortable win, and I'm actually going to go for a fairly big 3-0 win for Villa.
Cool. Brentford do play Leicester, and Leicester's probably a conversation for next week. I want to keep a Leicester conversation for next week, depending on that result, because I think if Leicester win, they kind of bump themselves back out of it a little bit. But if they don't, I get next week to talk about my favourite person, who is of course Brendan Rodgers, and I say that with tongue firmly in cheek. But look, it's another weekend of football. There's some FA Cup quarter-finals on as well. I think they're fairly straightforward, to be honest with you. This is the quarterfinals, but it'll be interesting to see what way the semi-final draw goes. But so there's loads of football on this weekend. There's Premier League. You have got, of course, the FA Cup, and the Championship is brilliant, by the way. Like, I know you didn't like being in there, Joe. You want to be in the Premier League.
Don't say that, mate. You try, like, I don't want to go.
No,
back
I'm not
there,
saying. I'm not saying I like you to be back in it. I mean, you know, as a Leeds fan, you always say to me, just to get out of there and into Premier League, 16 years and all. But my God, what a division of football the Championship is every season. It's like you're looking now. Burnley are flying, but then you're looking at teams in 4th and 5th, and you're going, they can catch that team in 2nd, no problem. You know what I mean? You look at the bottom; it's an unbelievable division of football.
It's interesting what Michael Carrick's done at Middlesbrough. You know, like he looks like he could have a little bit about him, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
And you know what? Is your man Gibson still up there at Middlesbrough?
Yeah, Steve Gibson, yeah.
The owner, and
yeah,
you know what? In fairness to him, he backs his managers.
Yeah, he does,
you have to give it to him. He does back his managers. But I just think of just being kind of just keeping an eye a little bit on the Championship, because when it gets to this time of the season, like, they seem to be playing every 3 days, but it's genuinely what a division of football. Like, when you look at it, like, Sheffield United are in 2nd on 70 points, and the team Millwall, they're 10 points behind them with 9 games to go, like, in 6th. Do you know what I mean? But then when you look at even the playoffs, Millwall are in the final playoff place on 60 points. There's like 5 teams within 6 points of them. Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy, that stuff that goes on. So the Championship, if you get a chance to watch any Championship over the weekend, it does be always good stuff as well. Joe, what's your plans for the weekend? What have you got coming up on all your different social media stuff?
Because it's coming to the sort of business end, and we know who our rivals are, I'm going to be doing a few watch-alongs of the other games. So we have a vested interest in them now, you see. So I'll be doing the Forest-Newcastle game, mine on the Saturday when we beat Wolves. And then on Sunday, I'll be doing Arsenal-Palace as well, because I think Palace are well in there. So, yeah, just a weekend of football for me, mate.
Okay, Just Joe Football Show across all your platforms and YouTubes and everything else. Jamie, what's your plan?
Yeah, just make sure, just obviously for Spurs stuff, just Daily Hotspur on Twitter. That's kind of where I'll be obviously updating on hopefully a Spurs win. I mean, maybe the way is to kind of predict some defeats. Obviously, we managed to prove me wrong last week. Hopefully, I'm proved right this week, and we do get the victory, because so much to play for Spurs still in terms of that top 4. I think that would be really, obviously, a really difficult season for Spurs. If we can somehow manage to squeeze into that top 4, I think that would be a nice end to the season. But look, I think so much competition, even the likes of Brentford and Brighton starting to push us now. And obviously Liverpool, Manchester United could potentially fall out, which would be a bit of an unthinkable thing. But I think they've certainly been dragged into it. So yeah, top 4 race, really, really exciting. And as we said, I think there's something to play for in the Premier League.
Yeah, there's loads going on, in fairness. LFC Day Trippers are just taking the weekend off, to be honest with you. Just knocked her on the head. We don't have anything until Sunday. But the thing with us is, Joe, you know, we do loads of stuff on Liverpool and Premier League, and we're in nearly every night of the week. But we loved, as much as people don't like the international league, we love it, because we get to start doing quizzes and drafts and just like literally just taking the mick out of each other for 2 weeks solid. So yeah, we're gonna enjoy it. We're just gonna spend the next 2 weeks enjoying ourselves, just drinking cans live on air, and answering questions and doing all sorts of madness. So that's what. And
happy St. Patrick's Day, brother.
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. That's tomorrow. The whole world is Irish tomorrow. Percentages start coming out. You know, a quarter Irish, an 8th Irish, whatever. 1/16th Irish. These don't need to be Irish. If you get the day off for Paddy's Day, enjoy it. Go out and be careful where you drink Guinness. That's all I'm going to say. Always stick to your trusted supplier of Guinness. Don't go mad in unknown places for Guinness just because it's Paddy's Day, because it won't end well. Trust me. That has been the Premier League preview show with Bookmakers TV. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment afterwards if you're watching it on a replay. We're here every Thursday night from 9 p.m. talking Premier League. It could be Joe next week, it could be Jamie, it could be anybody, whoever's up for it next week. And we should be here next week. Just that we could have a random chat about football next week, to be quite honest. But thanks to Joe, thanks to Jamie, thanks to everyone in the chat for all your comments and your feedback, and we will talk to you soon. See you in a bit.